Hey, Shanto here. I know the video is really long, so here are the highlights. Go. Skelly spawn. Skelly die. Give bone. Bone go meal. Meal gather. Meal make kelp go big. Piston break kelp. Kelp get cooked. Cooked kelp make block. Refill smoker. Load furnaces. Ore dispenser. Cooked ore. Profit.
Shantogen.
Bienvenidos mi gente. Welcome to another one of Shanto Spaghetti Redstone farms. So, first and foremost, I just want to say off the bat, the farm you're about to see works. It has certain bugs, but the bugs don't prevent it from working. So, when I say it's Spaghetti Redstone, I mean I have literally just tried to make this work as best I can. I've done some trimming, but at this point, every time I trim something, it just goes awry. That being said, let's go ahead and get into it. Our farm today is based off of this. This right here, for those who watch the Hermitcraft series, know that Impulse created recently an XP bank farm that had this little setup, and I thought it was very ingenious, using an observer to see this grow and then have it, break off. They created a massive farm of this. I said to myself, I wonder, can I just get away with doing one? And this came out of it. Alright, so there's a lot of parts to this. Let me see if I can't hit the highlights here. Alright, first and foremost, this right here is a skelly spawner, but for our purposes, it is your quote-unquote mob farmer. Essentially anything that can spawn skeletons. In my realms world, I actually attached it to my mob farmer that I had, this big tower thing, and pulled the bones from there. What you need to be aware of is that wherever this is, you need to make sure that when you're down in the area that the mobs are still spawning so that you're getting the skeletons. Now, why do we want skeletons, you may ask? Well, thank you for asking. We need their bones. This right here is your bog standard item filter I'm using the Impulse SV version that protects against overflow, but you really don't need to. It's just the one that I memorized and do the most. And we're filtering for bones, specifically bones. If you want to collect the other items, you can have it shoot off to the side, you can have it do other things, but for my purposes, I just connected it directly to the bottom because all I want is the bones. I don't care about anything else. So once the bones come through, they'll come down through in here, come into here, where they will get crafted. The bone will come in here, the crafter will then make it into bone meal, which will then go into this dispenser. You can see how this farm works. Essentially, it is the same as that over there, except I have put a dispenser right there to dish out bone meal. When the bone meal goes, it will grow, causing it to break, which will then go into our smokerator. The smoker currently is still at 32. The smoker will then continue to produce. Now, let's take it in steps, okay? So, the smoker needs fuel. How does the smoker get fuel? Well, simply put, as we see here, it's locked at 55 because that's how much it takes for this to come down here. Whenever this goes below 55, so let's say right about... It happened really, really fast, so I'm going to, in editing, slow that down for a second, and you can see the kelp came up from the bottom. Essentially, what this system does is whenever that goes underneath its amount, it will then turn that on, which will then turn that another one off. If I could... This is literally Spaghetti Redstone, I'm telling you guys. Hopefully one day I'll get better at Redstone. That day is not today. Yeah, can we see it from here? I can see it from here. Right there. Okay. Locking this hopper. So, there's a torch that comes underneath, it turns onto that, which will then lock this hopper. By locking that hopper, it won't pull any to be dropped into here, because that is currently at its capacity, meaning that even though it needs a little bit of priming, it will only pull one when it needs one. So when one gets consumed, it will then pull one. The beauty of it is that when will it need one? When it pumps one out. That's essentially what it is. So when it reaches the end, it will then consume one, which will then pull one from here, which will then have that one drop, come through, it will then come into this bubble vader, come back up to refill. Meaning that it will always stay full, it will always have kelp in here to be processed, to be used as fuel. Dried kelp block. Now, I alluded it to a little bit, but let's say, well, okay, I know that the smoker doesn't make the block, you have to craft the block. Ah, smart of you to see. Here is that crafter. It is set up in, again, spaghetti fashion, like any other way would be. And essentially, as the items continue to get full, this line will continue to go, and then eventually activate this, which will then fire that to craft it, which then it will send it off into that line. That line is where... that line over here will then get crafted into here, sent off to this way, which will then get used by all the furnaces. Now, as you can see, I didn't set it up in a way like this. I didn't set it up like the item-wise, because in theory, once this gets kicking and rolling and you're doing your stuff or whatnot, eventually this whole line is going to just get chock full of dried kelp. That is the thought process. It is a lot of kelp to have, because essentially for this whole entire thing to fill, we need, what, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25? Around 25 extra stacks of kelp for this one to start getting any. Which is a lot, but in theory, if you're sitting here and the bones are going, even if you did an AFK session, you will start to get. You know, for example, in my case here, we have already 17 here, and that was just in the process of me trying to build this. Let's just make that day, and we'll go ahead and do that, and alright, great. Yes, the animals, what? The mobs have been a little bit annoying. But in short, because this will always be producing, the goal is for it to just fill up as it needs to. And then whenever you have items that need to be smelt, you can smelt them. However, you may want to ask, is like, okay, but like, how? How do you make sure that you're not wasting dried kelp block? Because that's the crucial thing about this, right? It is not necessarily that you can't do this. This can be done. But you want to do it effectively. Meaning, you don't want to be using more dried kelp block than it takes to make a dried kelp block. We know that with a smoker, you can net a positive. That is what we're doing here. We're netting a positive. However, if we just kicked off one every time one came in, and there were no bones coming through like there is now, then it'd just be wasteful. This is my spaghetti redstone solution to said problem. Oh boy, alright. I'm trying to paint everything in my mind, because though I made this, it is still not necessarily something that is easily understandable. That being said, I will do my best. First thing we need to note is, yes, this will occasionally waste a block or two. Unfortunately, I cannot control when the kelp decides to grow. I guess I could. I could have this activated always and turn it off and have it activate occasionally, but this is already complicated enough, guys. All right, yeah, this took me a while. This is complicated, so a little bit of waste. You know what? Just write it off. Big companies do that. I'm writing it off. That being said, this right here is what the key is. So whenever we get, that's one of the problems I have here, is that I need to be close to this for this to work. So I'm just gonna sit here and wait. Up, there it goes. We're gonna get some bones coming in once they decide to fall in. So, as you can see, it is now starting to fill up this thing here. And it will continue to fill up. There it goes. We're at 33. Alright. So the system is currently primed. Now, as you can see, this one is locked. That is on purpose. So whenever there's an item in here, it is trying to activate this piston, which will in turn go back around to activate the dropper, which will then dish out the bone meal and grow the kelp. However, it is being blocked because I don't want it to do it just every single time there is one bone meal. I want to ensure that there's enough bone meal in here to make a decent enough amount of kelp that will then ensure that I can write the losses off that it occasionally has. So this right here is that system. So whenever this gets enough to go to 2, which I think is still within the 1 stack that it has there, but once it gets enough to go to 2, it is around 40 something, I believe. And at that point, it will activate this block. Once it activates this block, it will turn this torch off, which will in turn turn this torch on. Activate this piston, breaking that line, allowing this to turn on. Now, as you can see, it's like, okay, but why all the extra? Well, all the extra is to ensure that it won't turn off until this dispenser is empty. That is the crucial part of this whole entire system, is to ensure that once this starts, it won't stop until it is empty. So normally what happens here is that it gets locked in the off position. Once it gets turned on, it'll be turned on. Because it's turned on, it will then change, and eventually when it goes under 40, it'll be locked in the on position. So since it's locked in the on position, it will just continue to fire until this one gets turned off. Once these two get turned off, it will then unlock, everything will get depowered, and it goes back to its original setting. That being said, I will give you now a demonstration. We're just going to hijack the system here, drop that in there. So that gets started going to there. Down to 40. Oh, there you go. You see, now it is on. This is blocked off. It gets turned on. Once it reaches 41, boom. This retracts, but now it is locked in the on position, which means it will then continue to fire until it is empty. Because for it now to turn off, that has to turn off because we're powering from this line. So it just continues to go, continues to go, continues to go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom. Once it is empty, everything gets turned off and everything gets reset back to its start position. I just want to say, guys, I spent really long trying to spaghettify this out. And this isn't even the first time I did this. I had done this on my survival server on Realms. But I said, you know what? No. The purpose of these shows is not just to teach you something, but also to practice my skill and get better at Redstone. And that is the core thing here. So if you ever see something that might look similar, feel free to put it in the comments and I will do my best to try to shout out that person. But understand, most of my redstone, the reason it's spaghettified is because I will have something I want to accomplish, and I'm going to try to allow myself to learn how to accomplish that with spaghetti redstone. So now I've went ahead and artificially filled up everything so we don't have to wait several hours for the system to be completely primed. Again, the system is not necessarily to be effective immediately. It has a priming session, but once it is primed, you should be able to have it completely go through and have it always keep topped up as long as your mob farm is still loaded from wherever you're at. Unfortunately, I built mine kind of out of range, so like if I'm standing over here, no skeletons will spawn. I actually have to kind of like come all the way down to here to get skeletons to spawn, but yeah, details. So now we have this whole entire system. So what is this smelter system I got going on here? Well, most should be somewhat familiar with this. This is essentially a system that will help divvy up the resources that you need to be smelted. Mine is not automatic. Mine is manual start stop, which is this right here. Start stop. Start stop. Start stop. Yeah, sorry about that. With the minecart setup, it is a start stop system. Start it, it will again go through, and it will just continuously go through between these until everything is sorted, and then you can turn it off at will. And whenever it goes, it'll just sit there, and it's off. That is as simple as it gets. I wanted it to be something that you could toggle. I'm sticking to manual. But let's go ahead and see this in action then. So we're just going to, let's see, what do I want to smelt? Did uh, sorry for that. Apparently I had used the wrong chest. Anyways, what I was trying to say is from here you can load, and we're going to load all this ancient debris because why not? It's creative world. And once you have everything loaded, you can be like, all right, let her rip. Just grab that. That wasn't supposed to be there. And then it will start distributing. Why are you not distributing to that one? Oh. Excuse me. You know what? It's fine. It's fine. Anyways, so it is now going through. It will continue to go back and forth, and it will just continue to distribute the items. Whenever it finishes distributing all the items, and there we go. See? Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So once everything gets there, we should start seeing the items populate into here because I may or may not have forgotten to set. Ah! Yeah, I totally didn't forget to set up the drop evader. nonsense and didn't just, we're just gonna, there's, there we go. See, all nice, all done. And so as the items come through, they'll come and drop through there. Now let's be transparent. Let's be transparent. I wanted to make sure that if you guys did decide to try and mimic this, which if you do, I apologize, and I don't know why you're wishing this upon yourself, but that being said, I will give you the opportunity to mimic it. I just don't recommend it. Look at me not being able to do even that properly. I forgot to add this. It was just leaving and dropping. But anyways, if you do try to do this, I will be giving at the end a kind of pan around the whole system so that way you can attempt to recreate it if you so wish. Again, I don't know why you would, but if you so are inclined to, I will do that pan around. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Uh, Stay tuned for right after this for the slow pan around, so that way you can kind of see where everything is set up, how I set everything up. I will do my best to try and get as many angles as possible. I know that there are probably some blocks that don't need to be there. They're just kind of sitting there because I was building things up, but spaghetti redstone is spaghetti redstone. If you guys want a little bit more detailed breakdown, I can always in the future try and record myself building this replica, though that will be a little bit difficult. But if you want it, I'll do it. Let me know in the comments if you want to see that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as we like to say, hasta mañana.